Rolex is one of the most secretive brands in the world, and as you know, they are also one of the most hyped up brands in the world. This means people like to try and guess what they're going to be doing next, but nobody really knows. But 2021 is different. We can calculate it. We know. Welcome back to Bark and Jack. I am Adrian, and in my video that I did last week, I think it was about my Seamaster, I mentioned that I might be selling this when Rolex launches, or no doubt launches a watch that I will want, and therefore I'll sell this to fund buying that. I would like to retract that comment. I've absolutely fallen in love with this watch. In fact, it hasn't left my wrist since I've bought it. The only reason I'm wearing a Rolex today is because it's on topic. All of this is just staged for YouTube purposes and commercial purposes. The reality is that the Seamaster would be on my wrist and the Submariner would be in the watch roll. Before people start screaming clickbait and all that stuff in the comments, let's jump straight to the logic behind this video, the logic behind the thoughts here. And then later on, we'll talk about the dreamy stuff, the rumors and the ideas. So in 1953, Rolex launched the Submariner. In 2003, 50 years later, the 50th anniversary was launched. The Daytona was launched in 1963. In 2013, the 50th anniversary Daytona was released. The Sea Dweller was launched in 1967, and in 2017, the 50th anniversary was launched. The Explorer II was launched in 1971. 50 years later is 2021. So it only makes sense as part of this pattern for Rolex to release a 50th anniversary Explorer II. Now, not all Rolexes get a 50th anniversary, namely the Explorer. This was launched in 1953. The problem is that would mean the 50th anniversary watch would be in 2003, alongside the Submariner. Now, the Explorer is one of my favorite watches in my collection. It is my favorite watch, but it most definitely sits within the shadow of the Submariner. So from a branding, from a publicity point of view, I can understand why Rolex just left that one out. However, none of the big hitting sports watches is going to have an anniversary in 2021. So it makes sense for Rolex to use this as an opportunity to create hype and create attention for a watch range. Something that I don't think I've mentioned on the channel before. It's not really a big thing, but I went for lunch with Rolex. And when I did, they had this presentation, quite a significant presentation around the Explorer, which was quite surprising. This was about 2 years ago now. And it was really surprising, the fact that there was so much hype at the time around the Pepsi GMT range. Suddenly there was this very detailed, very in-depth presentation, kind of mini museum to the Explorer range. Maybe that's how Rolex works. Maybe they plant the seed relatively early on to create hype around a range which was underperforming comparatively. Compared to the Submariner or the Pepsi or the Daytonas. The Explorer range is down the bottom. I guess a Milgauss is just under it. But within that kind of hierarchy of sports watches, the Explorer really isn't the big hyped watch. I don't have a clue what they're going to do visually about the watch. I'm just 99% sure that Rolex is going to launch an Explorer II. Some renders that have been going around for years are this Explorer II with a ceramic bezel. I think this looks, I don't know who created this originally, although it's quite a drastic change from the original. That's not unlike what Rolex does. Previous 50th anniversary watches have seen an introduction of color, completely different from what's been seen before, or a reintroduction of color, stuff that has been seen before. For example, on the 50th anniversary Submariner, it wasn't just a green bezel, they actually added a maxi dial and a maxi handset. This was introduced across the whole Submariner range, but 7 years later. With my 50th anniversary Submariner, I keep it in one of our Bark and Jack watch cubes. Handmade in Florence using really nice calf leather. This cube looks awesome as hell, but it's going to keep your watch safe as well. You can get these over at barkandjack.shop. So they do use the 50th anniversary to do something different, to play around, to be a bit more adventurous, but also be a little bit more wild. Wild within the Rolex realm isn't all that wild, but for the very conservative brand that is Rolex, they do play when it comes to the 50th anniversary watches. Things that I would like them to do for the 50th anniversary, I really like the dial, I really like the handset, so I'd actually leave that alone. I love how high contrast the dial and handsets are. I also really like how the GMT hand has gone back to kind of quite a heavy homage of the original GMT hand. So I'd actually keep those as they are. The overall case design, the bracelet design, that's Rolex. I'd keep that as it is as well. But what I would change is that I'd like them to do something about the non-crown side of the case. I feel that is very slab-sided. It makes the watch appear to be tall because it's simply just a flat edge with no other detailing on it. On the GMT, you've got quite a hefty bezel on top of it, whereas on the Explorer II, it's a relatively thin bezel, therefore you've just got a thin line breaking up the side of this case. I'd also like them, and I think this is a given, for them to update the movement. Inside we have the caliber 3187. I think they would simply update that to be part of the 3200 caliber series, so a 3287 I'm guessing. The caliber 3200 family of movements is more energy efficient, and this allows it to have or give us a power reserve of 70 hours, which is a massive upgrade. Another thing that I'd like them to change is to introduce the glide lock clasp onto this bracelet. It currently just has the little Easy Link, which is a 5mm extension. That doesn't really cut it when you just want minute adjustments on the fly. Apart from that, I don't know what they would do. As I mentioned, as the 50th anniversary watches, they like to introduce a bit of color. I don't know what they would do, as in my creativity. I like things to be quite plain and normal. So I'm kind of excited to see what they come up with. What do you think they might do to this watch to make it a 50th anniversary? Or what would you like them to do to make it more of a watch that you would want? Drop me a comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you like the style of this video, then hit the subscribe button down there and the little bell icon so you get notifications when I drop a new video. If you're interested in watch articles or any of our watch accessories, jump over to barkandjack.com. And if you're on Instagram, give me a follow at barkandjack. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.